right, so we got one more speaker left. Tembusu Systems. If you saw the investment panel yesterday, you probably remember him. So Tembusu Systems offers a high-tech global infrastructure that lets verified individuals transfer and manage assets instantly. Welcome back. It's your second time on stage.
Yes, as you may notice, the words like compliance, regulation, KYC, AML were mentioned so many times during this conference. So today, as soon as we have a picture, I will speak about how to combine anonymity and KYC. I've got a lot of questions regarding this topic. The best comment I've had was, is it the same thing like as being pregnant and virgin? It's a little bit close to it. Right, so there is a solution, and we will see how it can be done. Do we have a remote control? No. Okay, we don't. A little bit about myself. My name is Pavel Kravchenko. I have a PhD in information security. I work as a chief cryptographer at Tembusu Systems. This company previously built Bitcoin ATM machines and recently moved to this system. The project is funded by people who are close to Singaporean government and to big banks, but it doesn't matter, it will be everything about regulation. I am a Bitcoin enthusiast. I've done probably like 50 presentations about Bitcoin all around the world. I think that it's very important to tell people, like normal people, like entrepreneurs, financial people, what is Bitcoin, how it works, why they need to care about it. And then I created an open source academic course about cryptocurrencies. I've conducted it like 3 times. I do it for free, always in some universities, in Ukraine, in Israel, and I'm willing to do it, everywhere in the world. So let's come to the topic. We got used to credit cards. But we all know that having a credit card means that merchant will know a lot of things about us. Not only merchant, but also bank and all institutions that have access to this data. You probably heard the story about a young lady who was the customer of a big merchant in US, and she became pregnant at some point. And then, after some time, this shop sent her to her home some advertisement, with promotion of like baby products. That's how her father got to know about her situation. She was obviously not happy with that, but this story shows us that merchants know about us much more than we even know about us ourselves. So how it's happened? Merchant constantly analyzes the behavior of purchases of all people, and it's possible having the data mining techniques to see the changes in user behavior. So even if you buy normal products like milk or cucumbers, and then next day you buy tomatoes and salt, maybe something happened. And it's possible because, we use this little piece of plastic. We got used to it, and obviously, but we value cash and Bitcoin because it gives us some privacy. But right now, the whole industry, and this conference is just another evidence to it, we are moving to a situation where our Bitcoins will be registered. When government will know who owns what. First of all, if you go to any big compliant exchange, you will have to provide a lot of information about yourself. Passport, ID, proof of residence, banking credentials, a lot of things. So it's basically a whitelisting. We are moving to a whitelisting of addresses. From the other side, like a gateway model, here's like a picture from Ripple. If you have a federated address, it means that everybody who knows your address can look to the blockchain. It's even worse than an existing financial system. It's open database. If you know the public key of some user, you can track all the spendings. And there were a lot of researches regarding this topic, how to track Bitcoin or other currencies, how to find the relationships between addresses. So it's kind of a problem. And there is like a big question. Will Bitcoin be regulated to the point where we will have like a white addresses, clean addresses, and dark addresses? So Bitcoin may become non-fungible, which is not a good point. Another thing is that even if this hasn't happened yet, Bitcoin exchanges, they require a lot of data. If you're registered on 4 exchanges, you probably provided data, your personal data, to 4 exchanges, including your passport and all needed documents. And your data is stored there, which includes the possibility that some of these businesses will lose your data at some point. So it's a problem for identity theft. Another thing is, even if you are registered with one bank, but imagine the situation where banks use like Ripple-like system protocol to communicate, and then some bank issued a token to some guy, and then this guy paid to a terrorist, to a criminal, and then this money went to a just normal guy. He can go to and redeem this money again, but later on government may investigate that criminal was involved into the chain of this money. And it means that bank will have a problem because it participates in a money laundering chain. And obviously banks don't want to be the part of that. This problem is very well described into Richard Brown's blog. You can find the link here. So he just writes the question, how to ensure that bank is able to identify, to locate where all the previous holders of the document are good people or not. Right now, without direct query to previous holders, it's not possible. With whitelisting, it means that one institution will be able to see all addresses of all previous holders, which breaches the anonymity even more. So the big question is, can we combine regulation and privacy? Is it things that can work together? To answer to this question, we need to answer to a few smaller questions to break it down. Does identification mean traceability? I believe that not. That it's possible to separate these things. Can user anonymously store identity in the blockchain? It's basically the first step, one of the first steps to build a reputational system. I believe that, yes, it's possible. Where KYC info should be stored? Yeah, right now, as we see, like every business has to store KYC, which means that they need to hire a compliance officer. It's quite expensive. They need to store this data for like 10 years, which again, it's costly. And they're responsible for this data. If they lose it, they will be punished by the government. And can we keep regulators accountable for their investigations? In a normal world, every investigation produces some results, some evidence. But in an electronic world, if you decrypted some data, nobody can notice that. You can do it hiddenly, and that's what regulators can do right now. What That's what banks do right now. So the solution that was created is a cryptocurrency protocol that enforces that all participants passed KYC. So know your customer regulation is satisfied, while transactions are still anonymous. So your peers or merchants or banks cannot see who you are. It's still decentralized, so there is no central point of registration. So you can do it in completely decentralized way, no central authority. It's impossible to link transactions of the same user. When you think about identification in the blockchain, usually the approach is to attach some certificate to the transaction and then, to prove that you were registered. But it obviously means that anonymity is breached, because if user did 2 transactions, then they are linked to each other because certificate is still the same. And it's also, in the solution I'm presenting, audit might be possible in case of suspicious transaction. It might mean that in some cases it will be possible, in some not at all. Audit means revealing the information who was real initiator of the transaction. You may ask, is it for Bitcoin? Short answer is no, it's not for Bitcoin. This solution is applicable to financial systems of a new generation that will work like SWIFT, but for everybody, and will enforce the KYC, but at the same time, leaving the anonymity side. I will give you a short overview how it works, and then we'll go to details. User in the system is able to create unlinkable proof of identity. Unlinkable means that, again, 2 transactions from the same user cannot be, nobody can say was it the same user or not. And this proof of identity is attached to any transaction. It's just a signature, just another signature that is added to the transaction. Stealth addresses and one-time addresses are used. Maybe you've heard about coins like dark coin or black coin. The regulators say that it's money laundering tools, but the techniques are good and they are used to provide anonymity. There is a decentralized identity verification scheme, which means that no central authority does the verification. No company itself can do verification, so every user will be verified by party he selected. Revocation of identity is possible. Obviously, it's needed mechanism because identity can be lost or stolen, and you need to replace it with a new identity or block identities that you lost. And one important point, which is not possible to implement with direct whitelisting, that user is still in control of his private key and identity, which is actually also a key. Okay, how it's done. So the idea is to divide all cryptocurrency users inside some system to groups. For example, these groups may represent citizenship. So there are citizens of Germany, citizens of China, Switzerland, US, UK, and then each group, basically each country, has own KYC policies, has own requirements which documents should be provided. It may be strict, not strict, like in Panama, who knows. So each country may register their citizens. And citizens will receive a proof of identity. They will establish a key pair, and the private key will be stored only by the user. So government will not touch private part of this key pair. And now user is able to produce a proof of identity, which is just a signature. And this signature can be verified by processing nodes, which are miners or processing nodes in Ripple or miners in Bitcoin or Ethereum. And miners will see that like a German citizen transacted, and then Chinese citizen transacted, and then US citizen transacted, and that's it. Miners and anybody else cannot see who performed transaction, but what can they see is that the initiator of transaction was passed KYC of certain country. So it was registered, so his country allowed him to transact. One additional feature is that, but it depends on the parameters, we will talk about that later, that authority of specific country is able to reveal who was real initiator of the transaction. So like John Smith did the transaction, but for the rest of the guys, like merchants, banks, they see, okay, just US citizen transacted. That's it. And obviously, some people can join a lot of groups. So it was just an example with countries. Like each company may establish its own group, and for external world, it will be seen like a Microsoft employee did a transaction. So system doesn't restrict of creating groups. So process of registration is quite straightforward. So Alice, if she wants to be registered, she goes to a local authority. First, she creates a private key from identity and from the wallet. Then she certifies her public key from identity, but she shouldn't tell the wallet address to anybody. She can use any wallet address. She can generate anything. As soon as she registered, she is able to produce a proof of identity. And she is able now to send money to Bob, who was not registered, but again, he created some Bitcoin, some address, and can receive money to it. But Bob cannot spend money now because he was not registered anywhere. But as soon as he registered, doesn't matter where, he will be able to spend money. So the registration process is independent from the payment network at all. So system doesn't touch registration data, the process just doesn't control. You can create as many groups as you want, just a platform. The group manager, the authority, but it could be like a bank or, again, a company, can select own KYC policies. They may require like only phone number or passport data, but then it's up to merchant or up to recipient to decide, will it accept a transaction from somebody who is a member of a certain group? So it's up to recipient. It's possible to build groups where privacy is absolute, which means that there is no authority who can reveal the initiator of transaction. It's quite similar to a case like if you're familiar with Monero, the ring signature is used there, so there's no way to understand who transacted. And the last thing, which is really interesting, but it's very complicated, is that actions of group manager should be auditable, which means that if group manager wants to reveal the initiator of transaction, look into the blockchain, its actions should be recorded in the blockchain as well. And the network will see, okay, this month, the group manager performed like 20 requests to reveal the identity. And next month, like 2 million. Strange, maybe we need to choose another group manager. So that will be supported as well. You may ask, is it a cryptocurrency? The answer is no. There is no coin in the system. For the prototype, we've taken a Ripple code base. So we forked it, we removed the coin and modified it, so now it supports all these use cases. But there is no coin, so there is no party who can control the system through currency valuation or something else. There is no politics involved. You may also ask, will it work with Bitcoin or Ethereum? So yeah, it can work with Bitcoin if it's hard fork, for example. So basically what you need is to maintain 300 bytes as a proof of identity attached to a transaction. So Ethereum, for example, will support that for sure. So if you change the miner code to verify this proof of identity, it will work from the box. But Obviously, in systems like Bitcoin or Ethereum, where miners are anonymous, you cannot enforce processing of transactions that only contain proof of identity. Because miners are anonymous, they may not do that. But in systems like Ripple, which is where nodes are obviously non-anonymous, there is consensus mechanism, or Stellar, it's easy to enforce that. So the system basically firstly targets regulators, banks, and all businesses that need to work with KYC data. How it's done exactly? I will not go very deeply into mathematics, but we used group signature, which is a technique that allows for a user to sign on behalf of the group. That's exactly the explanation from Wikipedia. So if you have a group, you are able to sign on behalf of the group. Everybody will see that some member of the group put the signature, but no more information. So features, I will mention the features that only member of the group can produce the signature, but anyone can check it, having the public key of the group. It's just one small public key. And verifier obviously can only understand that it's member of the group signed, look into the signature. Nobody can forge signature of the user, even a group manager. But group manager can understand who produced the signature, who exactly produced signature. So group manager is in charge of registration, revocation, and opening. But like group signature was created like 30 years ago, the scheme, and there are a lot of different schemes. For some schemes, it's possible that majority of the group is needed to reveal who was the initiator. So it's like a community group where community can punish the bad guy. So we are building a protocol platform, not a coin, that allows to create a global network, cryptocurrency network, where users are subject to KYC, but able to transact anonymously. And it will be open source, and the prototype is working. Thank you very much. I'm ready to take questions.